A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Each year, Jesus' parents went to Jerusalem for the feast of Passover. And when he was 12 years old, they went up according to festival custom. After they had completed his days, as they were returning, the boy Jesus remained behind in Jerusalem, but his parents did not know it. Thinking that he was in the caravan, they journeyed for a day and looked for him among their relatives and acquaintances. But not finding him, they returned to Jerusalem to look for him. After 3 days, they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. And all who heard him were astounded at his understanding and his answers. When his parents saw him, they were astonished. And his mother said to him, "Son, why have you done this to us? Your father and I have been looking for you with great anxiety." And he said to them, "Why were you looking for me? Do you not know that I must be in my father's house?" But they did not understand what he said to them. He went down with them and came to Nazareth, and was obedient to them. And his mother kept all these things in her heart. And Jesus advanced in wisdom and age and favor before God and man. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Right.
Each year, Jesus' parents went to Jerusalem for the feast of Passover. And when he was 12 years old, they went up according to festival custom. Today we celebrate the solemnity of the feast day of the Holy Family of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. And in the midst of the octave of Christmas, the Church puts the Holy Family as a center and model, an example for us. At first glance in the Gospel today brings to us this scene, and it tells us a lot just in this very sentence. Every year the parents went to Jerusalem for the feast of the Passover. That was not required by law. According to custom, they had to go when the child was 12 years old, as the Gospel says. It tells us a glimpse of the family that they were doing more than what was required. They were doing more in order to bring Jesus up. The fact that Jesus was lost and found in 3 days, it doesn't tell us that he was a rebel child. He was mostly, his concern was to be with the Father in the temple. But where did he learn how to go to the temple? Where did he learn the importance? It shows the closeness that Jesus had with God the Father, obviously, for he recognized that he was the Son of God, even by that young age. But it also shows a disposition that was given to him by his parents, who were devout. They were going beyond what was mandatory, and they were trying to raise the child up in the practice of his faith. It tells us, and it gives us a glimpse of the authentic meaning of Christian education. Specifically, how the family is part of the education of children. The Christian family is aware that children are a gift in God's plan, a project that God has given them. Therefore, parents, Christian parents, do not consider the children as something they possess or they own. Rather, the children are a gift of God, and they are placed in their responsibility to be taking care of them and to raise them according to the faith. The family is called to educate them in the greatest freedom, the freedom to say yes to God. That's a very different striking culture than the one we find ourselves today. Parents, perhaps they want the children to be free, but free for what? What is the kind of freedom that we instill our children? And many do not raise their children in the faith because they want the child to somehow come to terms with the faith whenever they're ready. We forget the responsibility of parents and how they every day they take the task of bringing the child in the practice of the faith or to understand their faith better. It is not something that just comes like that, but trying to teach the children how to say yes to God, it is the way the parents transmit the faith to their children. At the center of the family, there is a school, an education, a formation of children in the faith. The family is the best school because God has established it for that. Religious education, secular education, schools, all the other things are there to sustain the family, to support, to help, to offer subsidy to the family so the family can do the duty and the work of raising up the children in the faith. It is not an easy task for parents, and parents know that. It's not an easy task because it takes courage, it takes persistence, and it takes dedication and a vision to the truth in order to bring your children to it. In order to bring your children to it. As I could repeatedly say, we're all stained with original sin. And as I usually often say too, the goats always want to run to the mountains. You know, in Spanish sounds better though. Los chivos siempre quieren correr al monte. The goats always want to run to the mountains. That is something in the nature of every human being, and the children want to do that too. Sometimes they want to run to the mountains wildly, especially in their teenage years. So they want to do that, and parents sometimes they don't know how to exercise the authority that God has given them properly in order to train them and to form them properly so that if they do decide to run to the mountains, at least they can climb them and not just run wildly. Somehow parents have invested with this, and they are invested with this authority that God has given them. And nowadays it's very hard for parents, and I see a lot of parents sometimes not exercising the authority, but actually just deferring it to someone else. Pope Francis was reflecting on this last year on the Feast of the Holy Family. You may want to go to YouTube and look for his homily. But he was reflecting on this reality of parents. He says, when I was growing up, said Pope Francis, when I was growing up in Argentina, when I did something wrong in the classroom, my parents will come and to the teacher, and I will have to hear the scolding of the teacher in front of my mom. And then I will get home, and then I will get the second scolding from the mom. That enforces the message of the authority of the teacher is transmitted to the authority of the parent, who will continue the work of trying to teach this child, which eventually will become Pope. It is a work of formation. But now, and I see this as a priest as well, because when our religious education program is constant, many parents do not take on this responsibility, and what they do is they enter at war with the school, or with the teacher, or at war with the catechist. It is their fault. The teacher didn't tell me. If the teacher scolds the child, sometimes the parents take it against the teacher. And guess what? The child learns those things. Where is the authority? Begin to lie. Wants to run to the mountains. You know? There is that formation. That's why the family is that formation of a Christian conscience. It's the place where conscience learns good and bad, and parents need to be alert Not only of the threats that are out there, social threats and political threats and whatever is threatening the family nowadays, but the inner struggle of the soul of the child. The child is going to want to lie. He's going to want to sin. There's going to be pride. There's going to be cheating. All those things are part of the conscience. And trying to teach the children how to behave properly, how to think properly, how to love the things of God is the work that parents are entitled with every day. Every day, have parents this idea. A good example that I like to use as an illustration. I don't know what happened to my helmet. I went to the floor. Maybe that's where it belongs. But the family is the best school, but it's a school of formation. An illustration I like to place is Catholic education. Why is Catholic education so good? Because Catholic education does not make good scientists only. They make good scientists, good mathematicians, good engineers, good architects, good doctors. Catholic education is solid. But what makes Catholic education solid is human formation. It makes good human beings. That's what it's based upon. I'm not advertising that I was a recipient of Catholic education. And I know that teachers were not only concerned about learning in the mind, but learning the heart as well. The human side. Schools, public schools, are taking out humanities out of education. They don't teach them philosophy. They don't teach them much history. They see it in practical and pragmatic and unnecessary to create a generation of technicians who just do technical things without much thinking, without much heart. So that's what Catholic education. And the best place for Catholic education, in my experience, is the seminary. You know, it's the seminary. John Paul II, St. John Paul II brought a new sense to the seminary during his time in the reform that he did for education for young men aspiring to be priests. And so people says, what is it that makes a good priest? I think it's the seminary that does it. But I'm not going to share with you the 7 years and everything that takes place. But there is something called formation, the integral formation, which is the foundation of Catholic seminaries. But I think it can be applied to families as well, to a certain extent. To make good Christians, to make good Catholics. There are 4 pillars to the integral formation of a human being. 4 pillars. The first one is intellectual. The second one is spiritual. The third one is personal. And the fourth one is apostolic. Intellectual, school. We give so much emphasis to that, which I think is very important for children to learn everything. As they were growing up, the intellectual part obviously takes a lot of the time of taking the children to school back and forth. But it's not the only one. It's only 1/4 of the time and effort that parents should put into their children's education or formation. Intellectual education is important, but it's as equal as spiritual formation. Teaching them how to pray, how to read the Bible, how to talk to God, how to speak to the Creator, to learn more different varieties of the spirituality, so that they not only learn the spirituality and stop learning spirituality on the 2nd grade after their First Holy Communion, but they learn how to pray for a lifetime. That's the spiritual formation that parents give their children. The third one is personal. And personal encompasses the character of an individual. The interpersonal, social interactions, physical health, that they practice sports and they do what they need to do to maintain a good health, remain healthy, and a psychological and emotional formation. Those things are important because it's what makes a good human being. And the last of these 4 is apostolic. Go out and help the poor, the needy, those who have less than us, those who are lonely, those who are sick. That's the apostolic side. See, there are 4 things. We give a lot of emphasis to the physical, perhaps, and the educational. So our children might be enrolled in every sport from Monday through Sunday. You know, and then we try to give them all the education so that they get a grant. But without the personal, the character, the formation, we might not be making good human beings, whole, that also have an emotion, that know how to deal with their emotional realities. So, those are the things to ponder upon on this day of the Holy Family. So the families have a great task. And I think it's something that should not be taken lightly. We should pray for families so that they can achieve these tasks as they're given to them by God, so that they may form their children, and more importantly, form the conscience of their children, so that eventually they can make the good choices, so that become men and women of character. See, that's the difference. There's a difference between just trying to have a good child that has a good reputation versus someone who has good character. Character is the essence of a person. Reputations, they come and go. You have good character, a good reputation will follow. But character is what gives the child the ability to confront the challenges of life, to be able to pursue a life of virtue, and not to just be led themselves by emotions and passions and throw themselves back into Rocky Mountains, chasing goats. But then they come always into trying to find the image of God that has been imbued in them from the very moment of their conception. So today we pray to the Virgin Mary. She is the Queen of Families, one of her titles. So we ask her to intercede for all our parents, especially those who are raising children, that they do not lose sight of the responsibility that God has given them to raise children for God. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.